Welcome back, everyone, to AWS Partners Unplugged. My name is Sri Raghavan, and as always, it is my undiluted pleasure to do yet another podcast, a video podcast, with my friend, colleague, and co host, Igor Alexeyev.
Great. Yes, indeed. Igor is here, and we are video recording another podcast. Look at that. We have a new setup. I think it looks beautiful. And today we are breaking down everything that happened at AWS New York Summit at 2026, June 17th and 18th at the Javits Center, thousands of partners, developers, customers, and a wave of announcements, not a heat wave, a wave.
That's right. And wave might actually be an understatement, Igor. I counted over 15 major launches across AI, security, developer tools, infrastructure, and of course, data. And what really stood out to me this time is that almost every announcement had a partner story attached to it. So this wasn't just AWS building, it was AWS and its ecosystem building together, which I think is fantastic.
I think it just shows how AWS and partners work together. We work together on these new features, functionalities, and we bring them to the market together. And of course, I don't know if you saw it, but I noticed there's like this meta narrative and overarching story that agents are no longer a concept, no longer a POC, POV. They are production infrastructure. And the partner ecosystem is not just watching from the sidelines, they are integrated in this layer. So let's dig in. What's the first
Good.
topic we want to talk
That's
about?
it. Let's go with the first topic to me, the agent platform, Bedrock AgentCore and managed knowledge base. This takes you from a working prototype to a production grade agent. To your point, we are long past the announcement of agents, which we did about a year and a half ago. Forbes, in fact, ran a piece calling it a big deal for enterprise agents. And they highlighted the tasks performed in Agent Crow grew by about 15x in 6 months. But what really caught my eye is a customer roster. So you have NASDAQ, Visa, and Experian all running production agents in it. In fact, Visa actually built something called intelligent commerce on AWS using Bedrock Agent Core, where AI agents that handle discovery, decision making, and secure payments autonomously.
I love the last part, especially the secure payments, and we'll talk about them later. But first, Agent Core is awesome. It is framework agnostic. You can bring LangGraph or Llama Index or Crew.ai, Crew AI, or Strands, or whichever framework you like. Agent Core does not force you into a proprietary SDK. And the partner angle that kind of caught my attention was the security. Security side, both Checkpoint and SentinelOne announced integrations on the very same day.
Yeah, that was interesting, actually. And in fact, Checkpoint is extending the security controls into agentic workflows through Agent Core, and Sentinel-1, of course, through their prompt security acquisition. I can't remember when the acquisition occurred exactly, but it was very recent. And it's delivering runtime guardrails at the Agent Core gateway. So which means every enterprise deploying AI agents on AWS now gets this existing Sentinel-1 policies. And here's the deal, right? And that's applied automatically from day one. So automatically you get it reflexively as part of the solution.
And that's the key insight. Like they are plugged in the right place. The gateway is this sort of, I don't want to call it a choke point. It is actually a pivotal point
Yeah.
where all agent traffic flows through tool calls, LLM calls, agent to agent interactions. And having security partners plug in at that layer is architecturally elegant.
And that's a big mediation point, right? Very important. And let's not forget auth. I don't know how to say it. It's either auth or auth zero, depending on who says what. But they published a joint blog with AWS actually on the same day, I think, showing how auth O for AI agents handles the complete identity lifecycle. So, which means it authenticates users, it secures agent to agent communications, it governs the tool access, and it's now, again, here's the deal, it's now a native identity provider option in Bedrock AgentCore.
Yeah, I go for Auth0. I don't know. It's potatoes, I
Right.
guess, but probably there is a right pronunciation. Now, this is all layered on a managed knowledge basis. We had this for a while. It's a fully managed dragged product with native connectors to SharePoint, Confluence, Google Drive, OneDrive, S3. It has smart parsing for multiple doc formats, agentic retrieval for complex multi-step queries, all integrated with AgentCore Gateway.
And when I hear you say this, right, I also think that this is a hell of an opportunity for the SIs and the GSIs like Accenture and Deloitte. They were spending months building RAG pipelines for clients. Now, Accenture actually launched 3 new agentic AI solutions on our AWS marketplace the week of the summit, including an agentic data modernization product built on AgentCore. In fact, they're packaging their expertise into productized solutions today. So check it out. It's on AWS Marketplace.
And then there is a web search on AgentCore. It's a fully managed, MCP compatible, zero data egress. Your agents can ground the responses in current web knowledge without data leaving the customer's environment, which is important because, as you know, every time you search, whatever your preferred search engine, that search engine captures your information and builds a profile about you. So you don't want you don't want data, your enterprise data, to leak out through the web searches.
Which is why
Yeah,
it's an important implication. What you just said is very important for regulated industries, right? Who are going to love this because healthcare, financial services, government, they all want more current information. They all want information that's relevant and hot, without, of course, a data risk. And I think from that standpoint, it's a very important announcement.
next big one is AWS Context. It's
Ah,
coming soon. It's not a GA yet, but conceptually one of the most important announcements. It automatically maps relationships across your data into a knowledge graph. And we know knowledge is better represented in graphs. It's not a relational, well, it is relational, but it's in a graph structure. It's not a like tabular data. It's not a document data. Graphs are the best. So databases, documents, emails, CRM records, and agents can search them in real time.
in fact, I was in a EBC last week with a very big graph partner, and this came up quite a bit in terms of context and control. In the keynote that Swami Shiva Subramaniam gave, he framed this perfectly, right? He said, context is what makes your agent's 10th decision better than its first because iteratively it's able to get more information and contextualizes its responses. Yeah, that's true. And the interesting partner dimension here is a partner that I've had the privilege of working with before, Calibra. They announced the same week that they're deepening their partnership with AWS to bring business context and semantics to SageMaker Catalog, one of the very first ML products that I worked on ages ago. So, I love that full circle.
Yeah, Calibra describes themselves as the enterprise-wide governance fabric. You probably remember them as Catalog.
That's
I
right.
mean, I guess the scope grew, so it includes business glossaries, policies, stewardship, workflows that span the entire. I've heard the term data estates.
Right.
So, while AWS Context builds on the graph automatically, Calibra enriches it with the governance layer that enterprises need. And I think it's part of the broader motion that in your context, it's important to have the metadata about your data. And that's, I guess, where Calibra comes in. And in general, AWS Context kind of backs up that motion that metadata is important.
And I think this whole idea of context and control, right, is something which is very emblematic in many discussions that are happening simultaneously, not just within AWS, but also across partners. I was at the Databricks Summit last week, and context and control came up over and over again. And actually, Calibra won the Databricks Governance Partner of the Year in their meetings last week. So they're clearly positioned and are positioning themselves as a governance layer across multiple clouds. For AWS, having Calibra complement context rather than compete with it, to me, that's a very smart ecosystem play.
And now pair that with the Glue data catalog semantic search
Right.
preview. You can now enrich your Glue tables with glossary terms, custom meta fields, and skills that direct agents to additional context. then use a new glued search API to find data by semantic meaning. I actually run into this problem. To a specific table, there is this leap, and some people call the same concept different names. So how do you know which table to use? You need metadata for that. And it cannot be like
That's right.
keyword based, it's semantic.
And that's what's brilliant about the Glue announcement, right? Is also the MCP angle from that standpoint, what you just mentioned in terms of dealing with that conflict. Any MCP compatible agent, be it I don't know, Claude Code, Kiro, Cursor, Codex, can connect with virtually no setup using the AWS Data Analytics plugin from the Agent Toolkit. I found this very interesting when I read about it. And Snowflake also did a hands-on lab at their own summit. This was about 3 weeks ago, I think, showing catalog linked databases connecting to Glue data catalog. So the interoperability story that we're hearing across these partners with AWS services is real. It can be demonstrated, and much more importantly, is actually resolving a lot of the customer pain points we've been hearing on a consistent basis.
And then sort of continue into this metadata enrichment of context. The S3 annotations, it's up to 1 GB of rich queryable context attached directly to your object. So JSON, XML, or YAML. It's purpose built for AI agents that need to discover and act on the data maintained in separate metadata systems.
And that's why it gets really cool, right? Because the context, even though the systems are separate, the context moves with the object during copy, replication, crossing regional territories in terms of data transfers. And for data catalog partners like Calibra and Atlan, and for machine learning platforms like Hugging Face, having rich metadata travel with the data is a game changer. It makes it consistent. You don't have to worry about rehashing the metadata all over just because you know you've had a change of scenery. So that level of consistency is extremely important, something which is stateless we're actually seeing a lot more of.
All right, let's switch gears. Everybody's favorite topic and priority
Yeah,
number one, security.
that's right.
AWS Continuum. So this is our new AI native security remediation service. It takes findings from across your environments, prioritizes by the business impact, proves which vulnerabilities are actually exploitable through a sandbox simulation, and drive fixes through your own CI/CD process.
That's right. In fact, one of our partners, CrowdStrike, had two, I consider, big joint announcements at the summit. First, they announced new AI and cloud security innovations with AWS, helping organizations that want to securely build, deploy, and operate AI workloads. Second, they expanded what's called Project QuiltWorks, which is their coalition for mitigating frontier AI risks. And all of this is built, embedded deeply into the AWS infrastructure. These were two big partner announcements that came out of that.
And the QuiltWorks expansion is particularly interesting because they expanded from the technology into financial protection into actually detecting and observing the actual attack surface. This is where vulnerability, not yours, but customers' vulnerabilities are.
Right.
CrowdStrike's Falcon integrates now with over 50 AWS services as
And
well.
and it's going to increase, right? I mean, this is just the starting point. And on the agent security side as well, right? We talked about previously Sentinel-1 and Checkpoint. The whole narrative from AWS is that security is not a bolt-on. Security is not an afterthought. It is actually integrated at the platform layer as well. And this is really a big deal. Security is part and parcel and as important as any other construct when we're talking about agentic systems. And the security agent now does threat modeling using the Stride framework, and it plugs directly into Kiro and Claude via Claude Code, via the IDE integrations that we have.
And it's interesting, actually, in security world, there was always a conversation about shift left, detect early. What I also noticed, there was, I don't know if you can call it shift right, but shifting security into runtime environments, we're detecting things before you, not at the code, but at the runtime level, where things happen and you might not even know about them, like day zero kind of exploits. So it is important to have both, and I've seen partners doing both. So you have it on the left-hand side with the code, with Kiro powers, and on the right-hand side with your partners integrating into your product.
And the point you're making about runtime prevention, for lack of a better word, I think is very important because, again, you could model all these threats beforehand, but runtime, there are things that happen that you probably may not have modeled, which you need to fix, right? So I think that runtime intervention is extremely important from the standpoint of making sure that it delivers secure systems. For the broader security partner ecosystem, though, right? Like, for instance, we have other partners too we work with extensively, Waze, Snake, Palo Alto. They all have AWS competencies and deep integrations as well. But in this summit, I'm not suggesting that one partner is more important than the other, far from it, but CrowdStrike won the news cycle, as far as I can tell, on the security side.
Probably agree with you, but let's talk about developer tools. Now, it's clear by now that developer tools, coding assistants, these are the ones that benefited from this whole generative AI and agentic AI revolution, right? Right now, a big chunk of token consumption is driven by developers using in their day-to-day work. And we had several big announcements here. So first of all, there is a Kiro for iOS. I mean, you're an iPhone user, right? So
I am an Apple user, yes.
Yeah, I'm sorry, I'm Android, so I cannot code in Kiro on my phone. I am bummed. So anyway, it's a native mobile app. It's a gated preview, and you can manage your code in sessions from your phone. Imagine you're sitting in the car in a traffic jam and you're coding feverishly. So you can start session, check back when they're done, review diffs, approve changes. No laptop required.
Two things I would say. One, don't code while you're driving. That's really bad. But with that, you and I are not privy to the specific roadmap around this, right? But I gotta imagine that if Kiro is there for iOS, then one is actually coming for Android as well. Don't take this as gospel truth, but I have to believe that that's indeed the case. And Kiro's ecosystem is growing fast as well, right? It already supports Anthropic's Claude family of models, and with the Gov Cloud expansion and model roster additions, it's clearly been positioned as a spec-driven AI IDE for some serious engineering work, which again goes back to my point earlier about Kiro on iOS. I am sure Kiro on Android is not far behind.
Yeah, I can't wait. I mean, I think the nature of how we interact with code has changed. It used to be heavily you're typing, looking through the code. Now you're mostly directing your AI assistant, coding assistant, to do certain things, investigate for you. You look at the results and you give it maybe a short instruction to look into another corner of the code base. So Kiro for iOS makes sense. Can't wait for Android. But let's talk about another kind of developer DevOps kind of tool. AWS DevOps Agent added release management capabilities, autonomous release readiness reviews for verifying changes against natural language standards and change-specific testing in production-like environments.
And the partner integration that matters here is, again, a partner that I worked with and admire, Datadog. AWS actually published a joint blog called, if I remember right, Production Ready Autonomous Incident Resolution with AWS DevOps Agent and Datadog MCP Server. Quite a mouthful, but I remember that. The Datadog MCP Server, I think, acts as a bridge between the observability data and any MCP compatible AI agent. So let's say your DevOps agent can now pull Datadog metrics, logs, and traces as part of the incident investigation and remediation.
And that's the observability meets automation play, marriage made in heaven. DevOps agents already integrates with GitHub and GitLab for deployment correlation. And GitLab actually deepened their integration earlier this year, routing their Duo agent platform inference through Bedrock models and customers' AWS accounts.
And this is where, for those of you who are doing co-sell and GTM, we have GitLab credits, which are available through AWS Marketplace, and they count towards existing AWS spend commitments.
That's
So
right.
that's really a nice way of encouraging more of our partners to actually be a part of it.
And the third announcement we want to talk about is AWS Transform, a continuous modernization. It auto-scans repositories against configurable baselines, it generates findings and creates remediation pull requests automatically.
This, to me, is an enormous opportunity, right? And enormous opportunity in terms of us being able to bring our partner ecosystem to the fore. As Igor mentioned before, AWS Transform is for modernization and migration. AWS has a whole transform composability initiative where migration and modernization competency partners embed their proprietary expertise into reusable agents. Accenture is actually at the forefront. They published a joint mainframe modernization approach with AWS using generative AI. And not to be outdone, Infosys launched an AI-driven modernization solution combining their iLead platform with Pega Blueprint and Amazon Bedrock. So truly exciting from the standpoint of modernization and migration.
So the transform agents are not just AWS code, it is partner augmented.
Absolutely.
So the partners bring domain expertise, AWS brings the platform, the primitives you can build this using the terminology from our past lives. It's a smart division of labor.
Right.
Almost Karl Marx comes to mind.
That's right.
All right, Quick is awesome. That's just no other way around it. We use it internally, you and I, daily. So the announcement was that autonomous agent in the new activity feed. So you get your activity feed where you see everything coming from all different corners of the company. You can now have agents that work with them in the background with the specific expertise tone and tool access. A finance agent can be processing order, sales agent monitor CRM, email, Slack, proactively drafting follow-ups and flagging risks. We actually do this a lot. I do this a lot. The emails, the Slack monitoring, I personally use it because we have deluge of communications, and right, to sift through and prioritize is almost impossible without additional tooling.
I'll echo that. I use Quick. I was just thinking about it last night in terms of how much I use Quick these days versus about a year or so ago. And between Quick and Kiro, I'm just hoping that nobody's actually asking me to pay for any of the usage, right? Because I think the numbers of tokens I think I've expended in terms of the many different activities that I use Kiro and Quick for. To your point, some things like summarizing, things of creating spaces, creating action items, refining my writing, and so on and so forth. There's all kinds of things that I use it for, right? And the activity feed is the new unified interface, consolidating your email, your messaging calendar, and
calendar, yes,
a single priority. I mean, you and I get all kinds of invitations and different partner events and all that, and one needs to actually figure out which ones to go to. It learns which messages you answer fast, which threads you skip, what topics drive your week. It is, simply put, a super intelligent system that I'm so happy to have because I struggled without it. And it's one of the things before and after the cell phone era, right? Or rather, before cell phone era and now, you almost wonder, how the hell did I actually go to many of the places that I did not have maps for back in the day? You cannot imagine what life was like before Quick happened, and that's the way I feel right now.
Yeah, AAA visits. Remember those?
Yeah, I do.
But you mentioned the tokens, and I think it's all underwritten by this MCP connector infrastructure. The variety of things you can do. It's all MCP servers under the hood. Like try asking it. Well, I had a calendar invite 3 months ago, and we discussed something. Who was in that meeting? Like this is like minutes and minutes of searching through the calendar trying to find it. Quick does it so quickly, and agents. So it does it because of the MCP connectors under the hood. Quick agents can connect to any MCP compatible tool. So the partner opportunity is here wide open. Any ISV with an MCP server becomes a potential quick integration immediately.
Exactly. And another example is Kinexys, right, of the MCP first partner model. They built a Kinexys MCP server on Bedrock AgentCore specifically for, get this, supply chain AI. One manufacturer reduced AI deployment time from 12 weeks to 3 days. There was another global retailer who saw 18%, if I remember right, improvement in forecast accuracy. The same MCP pattern is what quick agents use as well.
And the sure play here is simple. Build an MCP server. You're immediately plugged into AgentCore agents, so customers can build with your MCP server their agents into Amazon Quick. One integration, two surfaces, two different target audiences.
That's right. That's right.
All right, now let's talk about infrastructure. Let's start with the EC2 G7 instances, NVIDIA RTX Pro 4500, Blackwell Server Edition GPUs. AWS is the first major cloud provider to support these. Custom 6th Gen Intel Xeon scalable processors with 4.6x AI into inference performance, 2.1 graphics performance versus G6.
And to your point, the NVIDIA partnership goes way, way, way deeper than just one instance type, right? AWS announced they're adding more than 1 million NVIDIA GPUs, which includes both Blackwell and Rubin architectures. And this is across all AWS global cloud regions starting this year. If that's not a massive commitment, I'm not sure what is.
Mm-hmm. And then the Blackwell Server Edition position is interesting. It's kind of in the middle class of GPUs for cloud, because not everybody requires the top tier, right? It's not the H100, H200 tier for massive training or inference, but the sweet spot for inference, graphics rendering, and data analytics. Partners like Hugging Face benefit hugely. They can offer more affordable inference on these instances for their model hub. But in general, if you provide inference services, if your product provides inference services for customers, and then if the customers run it in their own account, then there is an optimization here. There is a cost-benefit analysis, depending on the volume, customer's volume, your volume. You have to choose the right instance.
Speaking of Hugging Face, I'm sure you caught this joint blog with the AWS at the Summit, Igor. From the Hugging Face hub to robot hardware, I'm reading this on the blog, with Strands agents and Le Robot. Strands Robot exposes root abstractions and the Le Robot stack as agent tools. So effectively, it's physical AI powered by the same agent framework that they announced.
Yeah, I don't know how to pronounce it. Le Robot or Le Robot.
You're doing the French version. I'm doing the English version. Let's go somewhere in between and do the Atlantic Ocean
version. Okay, next. Amazon ECS faster auto scaling. It's time to trigger scale out when from 363 seconds to 86 seconds, 76% faster. Time to scale in provision, new tasks improved from 386 to 109 seconds. What do you think?
And for our container observability partners like the aforementioned Datadog, their ECS monitoring already works at that granularity, right? But 20-second high resolution metrics means, this is what's important, means Datadog dashboards now show what's happening in pretty much near real time. And that is a meaningful improvement for our joint customers, because now you can take actions very close to when the actions have actually occurred, rather than having to wait a significant latency cycle later before your actions come into play, which may be a little bit too late.
And now finally, the most interesting one, it's AWS WAF AI traffic monetization. Content owners can now set a price for AI bot access, accept payment, and grant scoped access at the edge.
And this is a kicker. Our partner on this is Stripe, who's our payments partner. They announced a joint integration, and with Stripe, AWS enables AI agent payments for content owners and publishers. So you can configure pricing in the WAF console. Stripe handles the payment processing, and payouts arrive to your preferred wallet. How cool is that?
Who could have thought monetization, right? At the well, at the firewall level, it's a monetization layer. Amazing. I mean,
But
it's just simply amazing.
but nobody thought about it, right? But if you think about it, Amazon also announced their Content Partners Preview program, giving independent creators visibility into which AI crawlers rather access their sites and the ability to monetize that traffic. And so, this is well in line with that approach for media companies and publishers. This is a new revenue stream that they didn't quite either anticipate, or even if they had anticipated, they didn't have as a material benefit until about a week or so ago.
I think everybody anticipated, but it was sold through the legal means, right?
Right.
Basically, people were suing each other for scraping the contents. Now you have a monetization path. It's better for everyone.
That's right.
I'm
That's right.
pretty sure content providers will welcome the revenue stream, but
And
AI
and,
agent,
going back to your earlier point about Karl Marx, right? Not to use that as digression. This is where the markets can work their magic, right? You fix a price. If the price works for someone who's actually demanding it, then the supply and demand will work towards to make sure that the market's clear. So, to your point, yes, it works out very well for each other, for all of us, and you don't have to worry about messy litigation as a part of that.
I don't know if Karl Marx will agree with your magic market statement. It sounds more like Adam Smith kind of
Most,
story.
most likely he won't, which is why it's such an ironic thing that we talk about.
Yes. Well, we know he lost. Adam
Yes,
Smith won.
yes.
But let's close with Strand agents. The open source SDK got 3 new capabilities at the summit: better context management in the Harness SDK, Strand shell for isolated execution, and chaos testing plus red teaming in Strand evals.
The adoption numbers, if I don't remember them completely, but I remember them being as remarkable. The thing launched in what, last year, May 2025, about a year or so ago, and it's just exploded in the community. And the Hugging Face collaboration I mentioned earlier, Strands Robots with Le Robot, that was published on Summit Day. It's an Apache 2.0 open source software development kit SDK that makes robot abstractions composable as agent tools. So, really, a significant move forward from the announcement that was made about a year or so ago.
And the Strab Labs initiative is also worth noting.
Yes.
We're shipping experimental approaches to agentic development, and the fact that AgentCore Harness now exports to Strand-based code means there is a clean on-ramp and off-ramp between managed and open source.
That's right. For partners who are building agentic or agent solutions, Strands is becoming the lingua franca. You build on Strands, deploy an agent core, distribute through marketplace, and that's the trifecta that you currently have in the stack. We are at the tail end of this, and if I had to summarize what this summit meant for the ecosystem, I would say AWS didn't just announce services. They announced, or rather, we announced a platform that partners plug into at every layer. Security partners at the gateway, data governance partners enriching the catalog, SI partners packaging expertise into marketplace products, ISVs building MCP servers, infrastructure partners like NVIDIA providing the silicon capabilities, and of course, we talked about our payment partners like Stripe enabling new business models. It is all connected, and the bottom line is we work extensively with the ecosystem in the classic AWS way: build, co-build, co-market, and co-sell.
And then from technology side, it is clear that agents is more than just a model. It's not just the code plus a model that decide things. There's also a need for auxiliary services that handle identity, security. You need memory, you need context, you need additional tools. you need observability, you need governance. And AWS built each of these as composable primitives, something you can build with. And then we have opened interfaces that partners can extend, and that's the real architecture play for partners.
I agree. That is a real architecture play. And, there were a number of great partner stories that I have read, and I've actually talked to some of the partners myself. And it's not that I want to isolate some partner examples, although every partner example is important, but there's certain things which came up as important strands of conversations. CrowdStrike on security, for instance, Calibra on governance, Accenture on transformation, Auth0 on identity, Stripe on payments, Datadog on observability, NVIDIA on compute, Ericsson via Vonage on communications, GitLab on DevOps, and Hugging Face on open source AI. Every category has more than one partner story, and more importantly, more than one partner story which actually addresses a customer pain point with clearly determinable metrics that showcase the importance of that integration.
And if you're a partner, you are not on that list and you're an ISV, if you are thinking about MCP compatibility, you should stop thinking, start building. Implement. This is a universal connector to our agents and tools. Build an MCP server, whether you plug it into Bedrock, Kiro, Cloud, Code, Cursor, you have many, many opportunities.
We're at the end of the podcast, Igor. So this is a time when we delve into something personal, usually with a recommendation or of a book or music or something. But today, I'm taking it in a different direction, and I'm going to throw you a curveball. Putting you in the spot, you don't have a choice. Who is your pick to win the World Cup? And I will answer after you do.
Okay. I don't like to pick the winners. I'm going to hedge my bets, but I'm going to go risky. So I'm going to say it's going to be North America.
Okay. There are only three countries as far as, well, there are more than three countries. The big ones, of course, are Canada, USA, and Mexico. So you don't have a choice. You got to pick.
No, I'm saying it's one of the North American countries. So yeah.
Okay, that's fair.
Big three, one of the big three, yes.
I'm going to stick to Europe, and I will also go further and pick a country, what I want versus what's going to happen. Who I want to win, of course, is England. The last one was in 1966, which is like about, I don't know, 8,000 years ago in the soccer
world. That's like
world.
the Knicks, right?
Yeah, that's like the Knicks. Actually, the Knicks won in 73, so it's slightly better, the Knicks.
Okay.
But 1966 was when England won. I think my bets are number one is Spain. Number two is France. These are the likely choices. So, but rather, these are the likely winners. My choice would be England.
All right. Maybe with next episode we'll see who was closer.
We'll see how spectacularly off we both were. That's our take. Thanks to everyone for listening. This is your time is very valuable, and our aim is to make your time valuable and informative. And of course, Igor and I are open to feedback. If there's anything you'd like to tell us, please do so. Thank you so very much.
Yep. Let us know what you think about this video episode, and we'll catch you next time.
Thank you.